The Cave on Dagobah is one of the most pivotal parts of Luke Skywalker's journey to becoming a Jedi. You all remember what happened. While Luke was training with Yoda, he sensed a powerful dark side cave. He asked Yoda about it, and Yoda told him that it was a dominion of evil and that he needed to go in there. After walking around for a bit, he saw Darth Vader and quickly defeated him. He then saw his own face in his father's mask, showing us what he could become. Now, 5 years after the death of Yoda, Luke Skywalker visited the cave once again. In today's video, I wanted to talk about what he saw in the vision and some of the implications of his vision, but before doing that, I wanted to briefly talk about why he returned to the cave. After all, he clearly didn't enjoy his experience the first time, so why would he go back? Well, in the expanded universe novel, Heir to the Empire, which takes place 9 years after the events of A New Hope, Luke Skywalker is struggling with how to handle the Jedi Order. A few weeks earlier, Obi-Wan Kenobi's Force spirit had become one with the Force, making him the last remaining Jedi. He felt alone and had hundreds of questions on how he should proceed. He recently started to train Leia, but felt insecure as he didn't know how to properly train her. She had questions and problems that he just didn't have the answers to. After a not-so-great training session with Leia, they have a discussion about a dark Jedi who went rogue and crashed on Dagobah. This reminds Luke about Yoda and the time that he spent on Dagobah, so he set out in hopes of finding some tapes or books that Luke could study. After arriving on the planet, he looked around and wasn't able to find anything. Yoda's hut had slowly sunken into the swamp over the years, so there wasn't much left of his meager possessions. Luke then had R2 scan the area for anything electronic. The only electronic thing that he could locate was inside of the cave. Reluctantly, Luke entered the cave once again. Now at first, everything seemed normal. Although he could still feel the dark side, the cave didn't give him any visions. Then, all of a sudden, he was in the middle of another vision. Luke was on a small, open-air grounded vehicle hovering over a pit. Luke caught his breath and realized that he was back on Jabba's skiff, being prepared for execution in the Grand Pit of Carkoon. The vision started to become clearer, and he tried to end the vision by telling the cave that he was done playing games, telling the cave that he had already defeated this crisis. He then dropped off the platform just like he had before. In midair, he twisted around, grabbing the end of the board and flipping over the guards' heads. He landed and turned back towards the sail barge and extended his hand for the lightsaber R2 had sent arching towards him. This time, it never reached him. Even as he stood there waiting for it, the weapon changed direction, curving back towards the other end of the sail barge. Frantically, Luke reached for it in the Force, but to no avail. The lightsaber continued its flight and came to rest in the hands of a slender woman standing alone on the top of the barge. Luke stared in horror. He couldn't see who she was, but he could tell that she was powerful with the Force, and had just condemned Luke and his friends to death. She laughed and the vision disappeared, leaving him alone in the cave once again. After this, he saw no more visions and retrieved the electronic device. Alright, so what did that vision mean? The last time Luke visited the cave, he saw what could be his potential future. This time around, he saw a vision of what almost happened in the past. Luke didn't learn this until later, but the woman in the vision was Mara Jade. Mara Jade was known as the Emperor's Hand. She was sent out by Palpatine to do his bidding in secret. She wasn't a Sith like Vader, but was still incredibly strong in the Force. When Palpatine was alive, she shared a Force bond with him that helped her become stronger in the Force. When he died, her connection to the Force was severed entirely, and she had to slowly learn how to feel the Force once again. Anyway, Palpatine had assigned her to kill Luke Skywalker. This was his way of testing Luke. If she was able to defeat him, then Palpatine would know that he was weak, and if Luke was able to kill Mara, his most skilled assassin, then he would know that Luke was the right choice for an apprentice. Palpatine never got to see whether or not Luke could kill Mara, as she wasn't allowed to go with them on the barge. Mara disguised herself as one of Jabba's dancers, and when she tried to travel with Jabba, he refused. She begged and pleaded with him, but he would not budge. Shortly after her failed mission, Palpatine died. Mara believed that Luke had killed him and wanted revenge. Now, if you're wondering whether or not she would have actually succeeded in killing Luke, according to Luke Skywalker himself, she probably would have. Now, the vision could have just been a potential path, but after meeting Mara Jade and talking with her, Luke was convinced that she would have succeeded in her mission, which in my opinion makes sense. Now, don't get me wrong, Luke was incredibly strong in the Force at that time, but he didn't have the training or strength that Mara did in 4ABY. Remember, not only was her connection linked to Palpatine himself, but she had been trained from her youth and been an assassin for years. Luke was still somewhat of a novice at that point. A powerful novice, but a novice nonetheless. Now obviously, years in the future, as Luke grew stronger in the Force, he became much stronger than her, but not then. not in his vision. So that's what happened to Luke in the cave the second time around. Pretty crazy. Now, Mara Jade is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars characters. It's so cool to see her grow and change from her first appearance to her last, which is one of the reasons Heir to the Empire is such a great novel. I definitely recommend checking it out. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. May the Force be with you.